What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast that is a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you with another episode, this time to talk about the Packers' 23-10 preseason win over the Cleveland Browns. And joining me to do just that is my lovely, trusty co-host, as always, Jordan Trusky. Jordan, how are you doing, buddy?
Hello. I just gave people a salute on our YouTube video, which is a good segue to promoting the YouTube channel if you haven't already. I don't know why I'm doing promos this early.
That's when you gotta
Um,
get them in. You can promote the
exactly.
YouTube or even the Substack if you really want to.
Your Substack. Wait, how do you subscribe to the Substack, new bot?
You go to gspn.info and hit the big green subscribe button. And that,
What?
yeah, and over there you can get a bunch of our premium content, including GSPN After Dark and all of the articles we write about all things Wisconsin sports and then some. GSPN After Dark this past week was a blast. In case you guys wanted a little sneak peek, this koozie is featured along with a whole
It
lot
is
of other koozies, just as a little tidbit. But
a lot of
a
koozies.
lot of koozies, so go subscribe over there if you want to. It's only $8 a month. You get a lot of great content. So plus
Yeah.
all the podcasts you currently listen to ad free. So yeah, there's that perks. But yesterday, Saturday, 2 days ago, as you're listening to this on Monday, the Packers beat the Cleveland Browns 23-10 in their preseason opener, a game in which the Packers starters played one series essentially, at least on offense, and then defense there was a little bit more, and there were not too much. Uh, Jair Alexander doesn't play; he was out for personal reasons. I haven't seen anything about that just of yet. Um, but other than that, not too much from the rest of the presumed starters either. The Browns did not play their starters. They sat everybody, including Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Nick Chubb still as he recovers from his knee injury from last year, as well as Amari Cooper and company, along with almost all of their defense. I'm pretty sure. So
I would say the heavy hitters were definitely not out there.
right, which makes the first drive of the game somewhat of a cakewalk. 3 plays for for the offense as Jordan Love passes. Let me make sure I get this right on the timeline. I believe it was a short check down or a run with Josh Jacobs, a short check down to Josh Jacobs, and then a 65-yard bomb to Dontayvion Wicks. Um, that was in fact the order. 7 yards to Josh Jacobs, uh, -2 yards to Josh Jacobs on a little pass in the flat, and then uncorked a bomb to Dontayvion Wicks for 65 yards, and that was their day. The rest of them were done at that point.
That'll do, Jordan. That'll do.
That'll do. I cackled at that pass, by the way. Just like I saw him launch it, and then it was gone. Like just laughed. And they did what they were supposed to. They're going up against backups. Doesn't mean it wasn't any less fun.
Yeah, it's still fun. It's fun to see your
Highest
franchise
all time
quarterback.
paid quarterback throw
Yeah,
touchdowns.
just really just bombs away. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a good start to everything else that happened yesterday
today.
as we're recording.
Right. Did we talk about in the last pod? I don't think we did, but I think it no, because it came out on Friday night. I think. I forget who reported it, but the feeling out of camp from insiders was that Romeo Dobbs is Jordan Love's number one go to.
Hmm.
Essentially, I forget where I saw that, but it was a push notification on my phone. Um, and from what we've heard about in camp, like that is not very surprising. And given how much Jordan Love and Romeo Dobbs worked together in the offseason last year, and I'm assuming they did this year as well, like we could see that connection a lot this year if Romeo Dobbs's progression this offseason and his like if that next step he takes solidifies into the regular season that he's already taken in camp, I think that'll be a pretty uh, automatic pitch and catch for them coming into the regular season. So good to see Dontayvion Wicks get his share on Saturday with that one pass and that long touchdown because he is that good. But I thought that was an interesting note as we were talking about receivers.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, again, this is kind of we'll talk about a lot more of the receivers, more so the depth, I would imagine, as we get into this podcast. But the top is just kind of built for anybody to really take over, and one play can change a game, obviously. Whether it's Wicks, whether it's Dodds, whether it's Watson, but for as much talent as they have and the potential that these guys still have, because it's still early, they're still young in their careers, they're young in their contract situations too, really could shift very easily. And I think that's kind of the excite. It's the unknown that makes it exciting, and also not so terrifying because it's they are really well built. But I do think it's gonna be the themes of this are just gonna be we're gonna be talking about it after each and every week. You know what I mean? And this is how if you look at San Francisco, especially, they can turn to a Jawan Jennings, a Brandon Ayuk pre-contract situation, Debo Samuel, George Kittle. It's that is the template that they're trying to build. Is that we have a lot of guys that can be weapons. It's not easy to maintain happiness with that. But even Jordan Love, I know there's been whether it's like NFL Network sound bites or stuff like that, but he's talking about like everybody is built to be a number one wide receiver in this offense, and it's his job to kind of feed them. You know what I mean? He's not in an easy position by any means of these guys when touches, that is their livelihood. That's how they're gonna be paid down the line, whether it's by the Packers or not. But he knows that, yeah, I'm the franchise quarterback, but I'm only as good as my wide receivers are. And he made some wide receivers by the end of last year, but it's still that is the kind of the what is it symbiosis, right?
Yeah,
That you have between quarterback and wide receiver,
yeah, the give and take, basically.
give and take.
Um, but yeah, I think that that problem isn't really an issue for the Packers right now. I think they have a bunch of unselfish guys, which I don't think you were alluding to the fact that they were encountering that problem. But I think it's like that's the beauty of what this team is right now is that seemingly so the receivers the Packers have are all pretty even keel, pretty understanding that the ultimate goal here is to win a championship, win a Super Bowl, and however they might do that is fine by them. Like I think we saw it a lot last year where sometimes Jaden Reed would be the featured guy on a drive or on a half, and then you wouldn't hear from him for the next half, or you wouldn't hear from him for a game or so. Same thing with Robert Dobbs. I think Christian Watson was when he was healthy. Like that's just kind of
Yeah,
how the offense rolls when you are such a dynamic offense like they are, having a good run game and a good pass game. And so I think that'll all work itself out during the year. Again, not saying that you were saying it won't, but I'm just making that point on my own.
yeah,
um, couple more on. I guess let's stick with the receivers. We'll just go through the rest of the game. We'll go through the box score for the receivers. That since we're talking about them. Um, Grant DeBose heavily featured in the game as he catches 5 of his 6 catches for 66 yards, outgaining Dontayvion Wicks'
one.
one catch 65-yard bomb. By 1 yard, he had 66 yards. Um, of the main guys, I guess we'll go through. Bull Melton had 1 catch for 12 yards on 4 targets. Malik Heath had 2 catches for 22 yards on 4 targets. And then Samari Toure had 1 catch for 8 yards on 2 targets. Uh,
And a carry for a yard.
yep, and
I know they did like
a
a
jet sweep
reverse
carry. Yeah,
or jet sweep. Sorry.
yep. Um, other than that, not too much else from the rest of the receivers. I think it's pretty evident coming out of this game that Grant DeBose is like the wide receiver 5 as it stands currently.
5.
Yeah, right? Wicks, Watson, Dobbs, Reed, DeBose.
So you're already leapfrogging him over Melton and Heath. I'm not. I'm. This is not me judging.
No,
I'm just asking this question for listeners of
right.
Talk.
I think I'm putting him there now because Melton didn't really look good, and he got two fewer targets than DeBose did. Like Melton had four targets, only had one catch for 12 yards, and I saw,
You could argue two drops. I would also say,
yeah, that was where I was going.
I would also say, and we're gonna it again, symbiosis. Sean Clifford cannot thread a needle and doesn't want to.
Yeah,
It was very evident, and we're talking about second, third stringers. The reason why, like, and this is not to denigrate Bo Melton, because I do think it's again part of it's on him. He didn't complete the pass, but Sean Clifford did not necessarily.
put him in
He
a
looked a
position
little
to
risk
succeed.
averse, I would say.
Yeah,
But Grant DeBose, speaking on him specifically, just looked very polished with his route running and his ability to separate, even if it's zone coverage and finding the breaks in the zone. He's going to the sidelines and stuff like that. Like he just looked, he ran with purpose, and he had like one catch was kind of a little shaky, but outside of that, it was pretty sure hands, good spots to be in.
he had
I
a.
just thought,
Sorry to interrupt you. He had a big catch that was negated because, well, it wasn't a catch. He had a big opportunity to go for a lot of yards on a throw in this on I think the second drive.
yeah,
Um, third and nine. Yeah, it was third and nine on that second drive, and it was defensive holding. If he doesn't get held, I think he catches that ball and goes for a touchdown, like it was, or at least a big gain. So
yeah.
I thought he played well, but sorry, continue your point.
No, I think obviously played very well. I just think I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not quite there yet because I do think part of it is the person that was throwing the balls to him. Because I feel like you know I'm very into like quarterback talk, but like when Michael Pratt came in, I don't know about you, but the hair on my arm started to tingle because it was like this is it's a very different
I didn't see much of
feeling
Michael Pratt
watching
play.
him.
I saw most of Sean Clifford's. I didn't see a lot of Michael Pratt.
I'm telling you, Sean Clifford might be a fine backup, but there might be something else with Michael Pratt.
Okay,
That's
okay,
all I will say. But I just felt there was more of a. I felt like Grant DeBose, whether it's plays or like the scheme of it, or just taking advantage of how the defense was set up, he just looked on his own. If you just watch him, it's like, oh, that you see NFL qualities. I know he's an NFL player by name, but like it's just very like, oh, like that is can be equal to a Jaden Reed, a Dontayvion Wicks, a Romeo Dobbs. It's stuff like that that it looked a lot more sharp. Where Malik Heath looked fine. Like I don't think either. I know showed up on the box score as you mentioned, but kind of what you'd expect from him. Bo Melton, yeah, that whether Clifford could put the ball in his not behind him multiple times,
right.
it still wasn't a completed pass. He's had better efforts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's performances like Grant DeBose that really kind of stand out. And I think for him too, we kind of have to think about the bigger picture is that seventh round draft pick last year, if I remember correctly, and I was really in tune to training camp and everything like that. Not that I am not this year, but I was very much into the daily updates. And he was hurt for a lot of camp. Like he didn't really have a chance to kind of show what he was. I don't know if that was carried over from the offseason and stuff like that, but it affected to the point where he didn't even make the roster. And I don't think he might have been called up late, but it wasn't like he was just we knew that he was on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that having that motivation where he gets cut, doesn't see he's on a practice squad all year, doesn't even with all the Packers injuries that they have with the wide receivers, doesn't get the call up.
Yep.
I think that may have like I think it's very clear that it lit a fire under him,
Oh, for sure.
and he's taking advantage of what he missed last year.
Mm-hmm. I think to your point about, like, I guess who's throwing like the ball during these games, I went back and looked on the box score, and both of them really only saw passes from Sean Clifford. And so
Yeah.
with what like they did different things with the opportunities they were given and almost equal opportunities kind of thing. And Melton dropped a couple, and the Bows didn't. He only had one incompletion. So yeah,
Shabazz.
I think you're right that the Bows definitely had a fire lit under him after like I think it was a concussion last year or a back injury, one or the other,
It was something, yeah, it was something.
where he was out
uh,
for a bit in training camp and didn't really get, like you said, to get a chance to prove himself. And now he's doing that, and I think he's proving himself worthy of a roster spot at least this far. So, and I think,
and has had a strong camp by any
oh
indications,
yeah,
which obviously carry into preseason work.
right, exactly. And I think like you said, Bull Melton did fine, or I'm sorry, Malik Heath did fine. It kind of what you'd expect out of him. Bull Melton also had a flub. He had a jet sweep that he muffed, picked it back up and ran for 4 yards, but still muffed nonetheless. That was Sean Clifford handing the ball off. So little option A, little option B as to who to blame there. But yeah, all in all, just a good game by Grant DeBose, and I think an opportunity to sort of separate himself from that cluster past wide receiver four. All right, should we talk about a little bit about the running back room, Jordan? Stick with the
Let's
offense.
let's do it. I'll cede the floor to you because I know where this is going.
I mean, I wasn't the only one that noticed, but Emmanuel
No,
Wilson absolutely showed out today. 13 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Um, excuse me. Ran really hard, ran really hard, and I think that was what jumped off the screen for me the most. Is that he looked like a guy that was running to run and gain yards versus just kind of being out there. And it was a lot of the same stuff that we saw last year. Really good speed once he gets outside, but he still has the ability to get a couple of yards up the middle when asked to. He scored his touchdown up the middle, I believe. I think either right of the center or between the guard and the tackle on the right hand side. But
thanks to a block by Grant DeBose.
by Grant DeBose. And there was a the run on that drive where he grabbed Sean Ryan by his jersey and just started pushing him and then fell and then Sean Ryan dragged him a couple yards was pretty funny. But like that's the kind of stuff you look for, just a guy that's taking control of the situation he's in, literally and figuratively, on the field and in camp. And I saw everything that I saw last year and it looked just as good. And so um, Marshawn Lloyd gets hurt in this game on his only carry, 1 yard or one rush for 8 yards. He pulled a hamstring, according to Adam Schefter. I haven't heard anything further on his injury status or what he's going to be available for. How
If
available he's going to be going forward. Wow, that was tough to get through.
if I remember seeing from Packers beat reporters, it sounds like it's not too bad. It's something. The quote that stuck with me was, "It's something that he can walk with," which is I felt like that's a very interesting way to phrase that because it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's in your body. Um,
yeah. Like I can walk when I have a leg injury, but doesn't mean I can run. Like walking for all intents and purposes when it comes to how strenuous it is. Not too strenuous, but if I
yeah,
can't run, that's kind of
a
what I
little
need to do to
tougher.
play in the NFL.
Yeah. So I would imagine we might not see him next week or even the week after.
which which is, I guess, an issue as it we lead into the AJ Dillon conversation, because AJ Dillon did the opposite of what Emmanuel Wilson did. He got a few opportunities this game and made the absolute most nothing out of them. Like I, I was talking in a different Discord, but you guys can join the GSPN Discord if you'd like at gspn.info. Um, Somebody asked, "What good are AJ Dillon's quads if he's not going to run through people?" And I was like, "That's a great question. Like we've had this question for a while on Packers, like as a Packers fan and Packers fan in general. It was the second drive. They had second and one, third and two, and fourth and one, and they handed it off to AJ Dillon three straight times, and he did not get the first down. Like bad, considering he wasn't going against Myles Garrett or any of the other starters on the Browns D line. Like that's AJ Dillon should be running through those guys, and then I don't really want to blame the line at all because the line did just fine with the other running backs,
The line did look
pretty
pretty
good,
good.
and like it just didn't look like he was running hard. Like I'm not gonna sit here and be on the couch like the guy from the like a fan eating potato chips like, oh, look at that guy. It just he just didn't look like he was running that hard, and I'm not sure if it's an intensity thing or if it's preseason. He didn't really want to like go that hard, but I don't know. We heard it a lot this.
Well, I don't know about you. I've always heard that AJ Dillon starts the season slow.
Yeah, that's the problem though. Is that if that's the case, so be it. But like he understands that this is his time to show out, right? Like this is the
Yeah.
time he needs to be showing that he's worthy of that small contract that the Packers gave
Not
him.
guaranteed either. I mean, it's guaranteed money, but you know what I mean.
The, his, his
They,
his
the
spot
Packers,
isn't guaranteed.
his spot, yes,
It's a
exactly.
minimal enough contract that they could for sure just cut cut weight with AJ Dillon and run Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, and Marshawn Lloyd. But I think that's where the Marshawn Lloyd injury gets really murky. Is that if he's out for this week of practice and the game next week, you really hope he can come back after what's it, the Ravens they play next week?
Broncos.
Broncos. And so if he's out for that game, it's just a one less week of practice. They have to look at Marshawn Lloyd and assess him to see if they can just run Jacobs, Wilson, and Lloyd, and if they're fine with cutting AJ Dillon. So I think this injury
You
to
think AJ Dillon's going to lose this primary? This the mayor of Door County is going to lose his primary? Is that what you're
he
going to say?
might he just might
It is. Yeah.
because like
I don't know.
he can have
I
as good as attitude as all he wants. Like AJ Dillon, the guy is a great guy. Like for all that we've seen,
yeah.
but
Most farming simulator.
that's right. But attitude only gets you so far when the production on the field just isn't there. And I know it's
Yeah.
preseason, but it wasn't there last year. It wasn't there the year before. And we have two guys that are going to be hungry for playing time. I think Emmanuel Wilson for sure showed that he's capable. I think the only, I think the battle now, interestingly, I guess in my mind, and the way I hope I see it, I hope it happens, is the battle is between Marshawn Lloyd and AJ Dillon as to who's going to like make the roster. I could see them if this hamstring injury is long enough, just putting him on the practice squad and letting him go for however long.
You mentioned that though before
I know.
we talked about. I just don't think I don't think they cut Lloyd.
I don't think they do either. But like
That would be a bad look if they cut a third round pick.
probably. But I guess if that's the case then
This is a notoriously patient
right.
football
And I
franchise
don't
too.
think it's because they would be impatient
AJ
with
Dillon's
him.
on this goddamn team. That's what I'm telling you.
I know, and I'm not saying that they'd be impatient. It's just that when push comes to shove, who are you cutting? Like, are you cutting the?
AJ Dillon.
I know, and I think that's the. I think
But I
that's what.
think
That's why there's the uphill battle for him right now.
yeah, because honestly, like it's not even. I know we are talking about internally with what the options that they have. Packers might look around and see who gets cut. I mean, that's what they did with Emmanuel Wilson last year. Even before we got to preseasons, that Denver cut a guy that everybody thought, oh, played at a Division II college called Fort Valley State,
Yep.
and Emmanuel Wilson looks like he's ready for NFL touches, like in a real game.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Dillon does not
I'll say.
right
I
now.
was gonna say it just doesn't. We'll suffice
Does
there.
not. And I don't think there's any like even if it doesn't matter in the long run, but yeah, it's this is not that's not a good start. I'm just being honest too. I missed the start of the preseason game coming home from work. So I did not see these clips happen in real time, but looking at the box score, you see four carries for 2 yards. That's not great, especially with how everybody else looked pretty explosive, had a lot of good line protection, had a lot of holes to work with. It's just yeah, these are the same beats that we continue with AJ Dillon, and I I feel like we will have a lot of we'll have a couple other chances to talk about his spot because it might become even more glaring that hey, you might find someone that gets cut elsewhere around the league that yeah, he might not be any better than what we thought AJ Dillon was going to be, but the idea of AJ Dillon is just so far removed from what he's giving you right now that you know, again, one preseason game, but considering how I regret saying the following word for a preseason game, but how dominant the Packers looked. Um,
Right.
for someone to stand out that bad
Oh
is
yeah.
not good,
No, it's not.
I would say.
And like looking at
Even if he's more tenured than
right.
someone like Grant DeBose,
Yep.
or I should someone say someone that had a bad day, Bo Melton,
Right. Right. And like you look at the other running backs that got run, like Jarvi Jar Jarvian, probably.
Jarvian.
Jarvian Howard, 8 carries, 44 yards. What?
It was the way you said probably, but maybe
Yeah.
laugh.
8 carries, 44 yards. Like he did a lot with his run, and he had just simply double the amount of runs that AJ Dillon did. AJ Dillon had 4 carries, 2 yards. The fourth string running back had 8 carries, 44 yards. Again,
You look damn
that's
good.
yeah, and like you said pre-pod that he looked good. And again, that's against different talent levels in the second half. Third stringers kind of guy, at fringe fourth stringers, but AJ Dillon is a fifth year, right? Or fourth,
Fifth year.
fifth year running
Fifth.
back going against the backup interior defensive line of the Browns, and he can't get 2 yards. That's a problem. He can show out and practice all he wants. If you can't do it in a game, it doesn't matter. That's all there is to
Right.
it. Um, anybody
We
else?
need to start a new segment that is called "That's All There Is to It."
um, anything else about the running backs, or should we move on to the defensive side of the ball?
um, Amanda Wilson, I think, to echo what you said, looked really great. I think there is. I will say, I think there's a discernible difference in what I remember seeing of him last year. I just thought he looks more. It's not just like there was real like inside outside kind of game to him. And I felt like a lot of his runs were get him in open space, have him go around the edge, have it work out that way. He was finding it like I mean the one run again I'm gonna pepper in these little Pratt takes, but Michael Pratt set a really good block for him to spring open. It doesn't happen without Emmanuel Wilson getting by someone and he left his cleats
Right.
in the ground because he just juked him. I just thought there was a lot more purpose to how he's running, and I know the thing with uh, you know, um, RB3s under Matt LaFleur, like the Patrick Taylors of the world, is that he wants more special teams use out of him. Get him on the field if he continues playing like this.
He was returning kicks.
I know. Well, that's a good way use of him too. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm more
Right.
mean in the
Yeah. I,
blocking setting.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to be important too, is that whoever the RB2s and three is, they have to be able to pass block. Have to be able to pass block. And that could very well decide who ends up getting picked for that role, or for those spots on this team. And I guess we'll come to see how it was. I didn't really get a chance to see, wasn't really paying attention to the pass blocking by Emmanuel Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd in his one snap, or his one carry this game. But I think it's something to look for on Saturday when they play. Is can Emmanuel Wilson
I
pass block?
believe it's Sunday.
Is it Sunday again?
Mhm.
I think that is right. Now that I think about it,
Sunday at 6.
that sounds about
It's a
right.
very very strange Sunday at 7.
7, yeah, against the Broncos. So
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Hooked on
So
Bo
I guess
Nix.
I had a question for you. I forgot to answer. Or I forgot to ask. We kind
Yeah.
of talked about it already. But I guess what do you think AJ Dillon needs to do to make the team? I'm not regrettably, but I'm.
Blackmail.
You think it's that bad?
No, I don't know. I um I do I do think it's I mean obviously it's just play better. This sounds so stupid, but it is true. It's like I feel like for him, like honestly, a lot of last year's talk was changing the way he runs, how he's gonna like hit a wide open gap. It was running lower with a lower point of contact because that was a huge thing for him. That didn't work. It did
Mm-hmm.
not.
Right.
So this year he comes in, trims considerable weight,
Is very very toned
very
muscles
toned,
hanging
but
out.
I'm gonna guess he has not been to whatever play weight he is at right now in a very long time, like even before college. So that in itself is kind of you have to learn how to play with that, much less live your life around that. And then on top of that, it's just like what is going to be there's going to be differences in how the Packers use their running backs now. We just got used to how it was with Aaron Jones and utilizing a very versatile skill set. Not that it doesn't overlap with Josh Jacobs to a certain degree, but I do think there's going to be some difference in how we see it. And it's, I just think he's kind of so in deep into trying to fix something that he thinks he can attain to, like, is attainable. And you get so wrapped up in the middle of it that you just kind of lose what made him interesting in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Because
he.
it's like I think for all the stuff about like, oh, look at him, he's this 215 pound or 250 pound running back that can run. He's on it, Derrick Henry, but he's the closest facsimile of someone that we've seen in like what 10 years.
Right.
And I just think like what made him good in college and what made I mean he's had moments and had games that were like, oh, that is very interesting.
Right.
We're obviously just very far removed from that we can think of some or trying to make him into something that he never was it to be in the first place is just kind of you're losing the plot. I would say
Yeah.
that's my 3 word answer of how to where he's at right now.
Right. Okay. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the
And
line looked.
that's the what was how did you
I
finish
asked
your
what do you think he
no no
needs
no
to.
the you that's what that is or whatever you said.
Oh, we forgot the bit already. Yeah, I forgot the bit already. We touched on it a bit earlier, but I thought the line looked really good. Um,
Very.
the only like down spot was I was kind of watching Andre Dillard, big like
Come on.
kind of energy.
I will say I know he had moments. I think he had a holding. I think he may have gave it. Or did they have a sack?
I don't know if they had a
Let me.
sack, but when I watched in the first
Clifford
half,
at least had one.
yeah, when I watched in the first half, it looked like there was a play. Excuse me. There was a play where, um, Dillard gets absolutely manhandled, and he somehow like keeps the edge rusher at bay for a second long enough, a half second long enough for Clifford to get a throw off, but it was a bad look. Like very much out of position, not in good tech or like good blocking form. Kind of just like stumbling backwards, putting hands on the guy he's blocking to try and get him away from the quarterback, and it
What's
worked, but it
What's
it was
funny
not
is
pretty.
there is a flip side more so, but it ended up being a sack for the Browns. I think it was not when DTR was quarterback. It was still Hundley, I think. But Lucas Van Ness, like they do a stunt, he goes inside. This live and just lost him from the beginning. Try to put hands on him after he clearly has a lane towards the Browns quarterback. I think it was Hundley. It doesn't matter. but Lucas Van Ness just like ropes him out of the pocket. It got finished by someone else. I can't remember, but the lineman is just like chasing Lucas Van Ness. Just kind of goes like this, like push, like lightly push him, but did not have any hands on him. Like at least Andre Dillon had him something on that play. But yeah, it was not great. He was definitely. I mean, even the broadcast was not high. Like Packers preseason games are the closest thing that we have to a Buck Spurs situation where it's their team employees
Right.
contracted out for the games, and they're very honest of where Andre Dillard is at and where the swing tackle position is at. And I just thought it was just really funny how they just like clued in on it. And Kevin Harlan is like, he's a national announcer
National
and
guy. Yeah.
yeah, football and basketball. And it's just like kind of just like, yeah, he's been bouncing around. It sounds like that's my Kevin Harlan. I didn't realize I could do a good Kevin Harlan.
That wasn't too
He's
bad.
bouncing around and he's giving up sacks and he
You
had
you went
gave
way
up.
too. You're going way too low.
Well, he does this
Yeah,
like it's usually his
he does. But
radio
you
calls.
were getting guttural with. That's what. But no, I'm with you. They're him and John Kuhn were the broadcasters for the game, and they talked about it pretty frankly that
Yeah.
he was a starting tackle for the Titans last year, and he's trying to find his way as that swing tackle guy, and it's not going too well at the moment.
Swing, swing. Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
I believe Boys Like Girls is the band.
All American Rejects. Come
Okay, my
on.
bad, my bad. I
You
should know.
can't
I,
go
I,
to this
I saw
year's
them at
Warp Tour.
Summerfest, like 2019, I think, at the Uline stage. I'm pretty sure. Um, all right, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
We'll start up front and move our way back. I thought Lucas Van Ness had a hell of a game. Same thing as, um, but I guess never mind. I don't have a comparison. He did what he was supposed to do against
Yeah.
players of that caliber. I don't think a whole lot of their line was playing that well either, or their starting line wasn't playing
But they also weren't playing well.
right. But man alive, like Lucas Van Ness was getting penetration. Him and Devontae Wyatt had two really good games up front. Lucas Van Ness finishes with 3 tackles and a sack and 3 tackles for a loss, 2 QB hits. Um, Devontae Wyatt, unless I'm missing it, doesn't register a tackle, but he had a lot of penetration in the first and second quarter, disrupting like run plays and disrupting Tyler Huntley's like work as a quarterback. He had one where he was like he gets through the line and is about to tackle Tyler Huntley and he kind of escapes, but then Lucas Van Ness finishes it up. That's kind of the one thing we talked about last
That's
year is
that. Yeah,
that he
yeah,
needs
yeah.
to work on, is that he's got to finish the sacks that he's getting there for. So hopefully he can get there. But I thought those two both in particular on the front played really well.
3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 QB hits. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think he's
He's becoming that project we heard about last year, and that's good. Like he looked really good.
honestly, it can be very similar to how we talked about Rashawn Gary and how he kind of. I mean, honestly, we talked about this kind of role for Lucas Van Ness when they drafted him, of kind of being this understudy behind Gary and Preston Smith, growing into things. And now it's like this guy could easily just get a lot of snaps this year and just unleashing the aggression and kind of the Jeff Halfley, balls to the wall kind of whatever phrase that they're keep saying in camp. I'm forgetting right now. But yeah, Lucas Van Ness looks really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I, with the caveat of playing against, you know, second,
Again,
third string.
he did what he was supposed to against the guys he's going
Yeah,
up against, which is like that's all we kind of really asked for at this point.
yeah.
Colby Wooden registers a sack to go with 3 tackles and a tackle for a loss, which I was thinking is that sack. is how they qualify it. Um, I thought he played well. Like I saw a couple of instances where he was getting penetration and getting into the backfield. So like good on that. And so I I I don't mean to get like too high right away, but between those three guys, Wooden, Van Ness, and Wyatt, like if they can all make significant jumps, this front is going to be annoying for other teams
It's
to
gonna be
go
very annoying.
against.
I would like it. I would like that very much. If you want my honest opinion, I think I would like that.
Oh, thank you for being honest.
You're welcome. Brent, did you mention Brennan Cox Jr. too?
I didn't. I see he had 3 tackles, I believe,
Three
and
tackles. He almost had a sack. That was another. Maybe I confused the play. That might have been. I know Lucas Van Ness had one like that too, but Brennan Cox Jr. almost did it to Dorian Thompson Robinson,
yep.
who is an incredible athlete. The guy is electric. Probably already better than the Browns starting quarterback. Now that that's a high bar. Just gonna be honest. Um,
Wow.
well, I'm just gonna be honest. Deshaun Watson is not a good quarterback anymore. It's very clear. What we talked about this on our Primo. Subscribe to the Primo.
I know that's just
He's bad.
I I know, but Dorian Thompson Robinson had a chance to do this last year and he didn't.
He got hurt.
Did he? Is
That's what
that
they said on the broadcast.
is that why Flacco had to play? His
And
DTR
I
got
think the
hurt?
Flacco was like, let's break out this old guy from. He's Dennis Quaid and the rookie.
Fair enough. I
But
mean, he had in 8 games last year. He had 1 touchdown, 4 picks, and took 6 sacks.
better than Deshaun
Are
Watson.
we okay? Moving on.
Anyway, Brent Cox Jr. had a play where he showed a very similar to Lucas Van Ness, where he just beat the bricks off it in a one-on-one situation with the tackle. Could have corralled DTR. He sprung loose, and it still ended up going to like a fourth down. But yeah, like it was. He's again the understudy, far down the depth chart versus like LVN, but I was impressed by him. I just seeing the guys that they have on the edge. It's like let's put it all together. Come on, let's stop getting in the way.
Yeah. I wonder what a role looks like for Brenton Cox Jr. this year. Obviously, he makes the roster last year. Is the 53rd guy. He's on the roster, but he's not active every game. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan. I think they get 51 active players on Sundays.
I believe that's it.
Yeah, it's either 51 or 52. They don't get all 53
Well,
active.
they say 53, but there's some guys that just aren't dressed. I always forget why.
Right, and that was Brendan Cox Jr. last year,
Yeah,
in that he just wasn't really getting a lot of playing time, but they wanted to keep him because they saw something in him, and so now they moved to a different, more um instead of a 3-4, excuse me, instead of a 3-4, it's a 4-3 now. They needed a couple extra players on the line, and does Brenton Cox Jr. kind of fill in that role a little bit more behind Preston Smith, Lucas Van Ness, Rashawn Gary, and Kingsley Enagbare? He's kind of battling with Aaron Mosby and Keyshawn Banks at the moment for like where his spot is on the depth chart. So we'll see. I'm just curious. I'm wondering how many of those the D line guys they're gonna keep, and I hope that Brenton Cox Jr. kind of gets another year to develop because I think he has a chance to be something special. My only like quote unquote concern is like what is the long term view of Brenton Cox Jr. because they have Rashawn Gary, obviously. They now have Lucas Van Ness, who's blossoming to eventually take over for Preston Smith. Um, Once his contract goes out, even though I believe they just re-signed him.
I just
Yeah, they
restructured it.
just restructured it, and
Preston
so
Smith will be a Packer until like 2053.
yeah, and so it's just like where on the depth chart does that kind of where does he land kind of thing? Does he ever actually get an opportunity to play, which like he might in some sort of rotations and things like that. But I would hope they keep him on for an extra. another year just to see, kind of like what they did with I don't know why I said that. I
The
forgot.
tackles.
Yeah, like the tackles.
Like, and I think that's the easy comparison to make is that
Yeah.
you had Caleb Jones,
Yep.
Luke Tundra, who was hurt for all of last year, but you still wanted him on the 53 man roster. Forgetting someone else, but yeah, I would not see it any differently this year, to be honest.
Right. Okay. Anything else? The D line should go the linebackers.
Let's go to linebackers.
Eric Wilson played his fucking tail off, dude. Eric
I
Wilson
thought you were
played.
gonna say Fanny.
No, Eric Wilson played really well,
Well, I'm
and
gonna say it. He played his fanny off.
he played his fanny off.
Yeah.
Um, just he was everywhere. I saw one play in the first half where he was blitzing and he shoots the gap, but he gets through too easily and overshoots the play, like the running back in the backfield. The running back gets like a yard or two, but like he was just he played really well. A couple really nice tackles. He had a pass deflection as well. I think he's becoming a guy that is more than just your special teamer like specialist. I think he's gonna have a real role on this team, um, on this defense in rotation with Quay Walker and Edgerrin Cooper.
Yeah, I thought he was really. I mean, if you look at the box score, you see 10 or sorry, two total tackles, one solo, one pass deflected. But I don't think that reflects in just how you
No,
really. You can have a play like that, or you can have a play where Huntley is scrambling out of the pocket. Wilson is kind of like spying on him, and all of a sudden just kind of springs him loose. Huntley has to make a throw. It was not a good throw on the run. Doesn't the receiver don't even care to know who it was. Just be honest. Did not bring it in. Good coverage on the play too. But yeah, like it's little stuff like that where he's just very useful and just knows how to play the game properly. Like I thought we have kind of looked at like now that the formation has changed, new DC obviously with having young guys like Quay, um, Edrin Cooper kind of headline the future. Someone like Eric Wilson's gonna be really valuable to have as like kind of the more veteran minded
right.
guy who I think this is his eighth year, but he's managed to be on the Vikings. I think I say the Chargers before that, or I might be mixing up with someone else.
This
But like
is his eighth year.
he's stuck around, and I think just having someone that's he's very experienced. He may never be to the degree of like what we think Quay and Edger Cooper going to be, but I think just having someone that's very level headed and just knows how to play the right way is going to be really good for this team that needs better linebacker play or more consistent linebacker play, I should say.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. That's a big need for this team. But yeah, I was impressed with him. I didn't see much of Quay. I think he only played the one series. Um, didn't see much. I saw Isaiah McDuffie kind of moving around. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he played. Um, moving around and had some good plays. Same with Kristen Welch had some good plays. He gets a share of the lead in tackles with six,
Yeah,
including
Welch actually looked pretty good.
yeah, including five solo tackles. So like that's a good spot for him to be. Again, preseason backups, all the caveats, etc. But yeah, I thought he looked good. So should we go on to the last group, the secondary.
Yes.
Um, Evan Williams, man. I know that we've talked about him a couple of times now, but he's been showing out in camp and he shows out in the game on Saturday against the Browns too. Six tackles, all of them solo, and I thought he played pretty darn well.
I know we're very bullish on Bullard, Javon Bullard. Get it?
Yes,
Um,
of course I get it.
thank you. Evan Williams is going to be something.
I think he is. I think they.
He
Sorry, keep going.
No, he's just going to be the next late draft pick that we are going to be fawning over this year. I can already see it. The fact that they're again referencing comments made on the preseason broadcast. They are keeping track of interceptions made throughout camp. Evan Williams is leading with 4.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really good nose for the ball and plays. There has not been. When can you think of the last Packers safety? I know the answer is good. I know what the answer to this question is going to be. But when can you think of the last Packers safety that was just a nuisance and diagram play? He was not reactive. He was proactive in seeing where plays were,
I
or
think
just kind of played with like a level of like recklessness that you kind of have to play as a safety.
I think you know my answer, but I think the actual answer is Micah Hyde.
That might be right.
Because you thought
Or
I was gonna say
Charlie
Nick
Digby.
Nick Collins.
Nick Collins is the one, and it's the
Is
right answer,
it's
but it's
well, I
everybody's
wouldn't say
like,
it's the right answer because Micah
I
Hyde
would.
over Micah Hyde. You said
One's a
one.
Super Bowl winning safety and one's not. I'm
Micah
kidding. I'm
Hyde
kidding.
was a pretty darn good safety for the Packers, and is still a darn good
He was pretty
safety.
good.
And I think he
Yeah.
fit everything what you're talking about. But yes,
They
of
just made
course.
a
But
talent
yeah, they just could
assessment that
afford him.
just didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, him, Nick Collins, both just guys that know how to play in and out of the box and just can go go ball hawk sometimes. Like I think that was a good term to describe both of them.
There's just no one that like
No, there's
just reading plays like
mhm. They
I
tried
don't
to
know
get
why
it
I made a
with
$6 million man sound reference.
they tried to get it with haha, that didn't work. They tried it with
The joke was on them.
yep, they tried it with Darnell Savage, that didn't super turn out obviously. And so
There were moments with him, but it was
it was never
again,
consistent.
it's no, and that was pretty much like rookie year. But yeah, like it, I just see it. You know what? Actually, I will push. Adrian Amos had times like this too, but
Yes.
he was more like a security blanket type
Yeah.
safety.
I also, yeah, I don't really see him as a true safety. That might be a bit of revisionist history and or just flat out wrong on my point. But when I think of Adrian Amos, I see him more in man-to-man coverage versus um, back in coverage as like the safety valve that a safety is. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Like, I don't know. I guess he never he never fit the bill as a true safety for me, and maybe that's just my vibes kind of thing. But regardless, it just it was he's good, dude. It's training camp. He hasn't played a real game yet, but I think between the four of them, McKinney, Bullard, Evan Williams, and Anthony Johnson Jr., they're probably not carrying four safeties. They're probably carrying
oh,
three.
I think they will.
You think they will carry four?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You have to, right? They carried 5 last year with Zayden Anderson.
Oh God, they did. I think that was out of necessity for special teams, though. I think they
Yeah, but I think that I don't think that has really changed, especially considering that how valuable it is to the formation change, right?
true, yeah. Maybe they do all make it. I'd be happy if they all made it. They're all playing well. Um, but I think I think Evan Williams right now is probably. I don't think he's pushing Bullard for two because Bullard played well as well, but I think he has a real chance. Evan Williams has a real chance to play a lot of snaps on this defense.
If you consider the fact that Bullard is very comfortable as like a nickel guy,
Mm-hmm.
you mean like just getting that much talent on the field at once, that's again one preseason game we're getting carried away with
We
it.
are
But
getting a
I
little
just
carried
think
away, but
I just think he's coming into between camp and preseason. The guy is just gonna play with a level of ferocity that I just don't remember another safety of recent memory. Maybe that is just a matter of low expectations too.
right.
Because you think, what, 5th round pick? The guy that
Yes.
they doubled up on the same position. We're talking more about Javon Bulliard and how he can affect you know, that position. Xavier McKinney is the high priced free agent that the
Fourth round
Packers
pick, by the
rarely
way.
go after. 4th round pick. So yeah, Evan Williams is not on the top of the mind of everybody that's going into the camp, unless if you're like a true Packers diehard. But yeah, I just think he's just.
They also, sorry to interrupt, they tripled up on the position.
Oh
Bullard,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, he didn't even
Keith
play
and Odabo.
yesterday. I don't
Yep,
think.
he did
Yeah.
not.
So yeah, that's where I don't know. I'm just very very intrigued by him, and he keeps giving Christian Watson like injury scares, which is the other. He just doesn't know how to turn it off, which is also
Williams,
football. Yeah.
I haven't heard much of those things, but
Well, like the Christian Watson scare at family nights of he got looked like he got hurt.
Christian
That's
Watson,
what I mean. Yeah, Christian
yeah.
Watson.
Oh, you're talking about that play. Got it, got it, got it,
Yeah.
got it, got it,
But
got
I
it, got
think
it,
there was
got it.
another one in camp where it was very. I can't remember if it was him or someone else, but
Yeah,
he affected. Yeah. So
my apologies. I thought you were saying he had injury scares like Christian Watson. I was like, I haven't heard any of
no,
those
no, no,
injuries.
no, no.
Um, Evan Williams is again caveat as we do with every time we reference them, but PFF, um, his grade for Evan Williams, he was the second highest graded defensive Packer in the game.
Who's first?
Robert Rochelle, which is shocking because
He
Rochelle,
looked actually pretty good.
I thought he looked really good. So they gave him a tackling grade of 27, which is really really bad, and I think that's why I thought he didn't play too well. Like I saw him miss a few tackles. Like golly, brother, I need you to miss to
Brother.
make some tackles. Um,
Yeah.
but Evan Williams in coverage gets 3 targets, 3 receptions, only for 14 yards. The longest of which at him was 8 yards, and he had 9 yards after catch. So if you take out the yak, he had 3 receptions for 5 yards allowed. So yeah, I thought he played really well. Like you said, Robert Rochelle, I think he did pretty good in coverage. I saw him with a couple of pass breakups. I think he had 2 according to PFF. He only had 1 reception on 3 targets for 5 yards, so good on him. Like the secondary's balling, dude, and I think it's not in uh, short measure. That's not really a saying, but it's. I'll say it's because of Jeff Hafley. Like Jeff Hafley has these guys playing, and I think there's maybe a bit of shot of life into this defense more than there was so in years past.
I would agree.
Good, good.
That's where I leave it with that. I can't remember what you
I don't
said,
know what
but
we said. We'll have to go back and
uh,
listen to it, but regardless, um, I don't have too much else on the secondary. Eric Stokes played 12 total snaps. I thought he looked pretty good for his short amount of snaps that he did play. Um, but other than that, not too much else that I really saw worth talking about. So
special teams.
we're getting there. Uh, Kickers, everyone's favorite topic. They were good. They all hit their required amounts. Anders Carlson hit 2 field goals. Um, I don't, I forget how long the other one was. One was 46. I don't know.
Uh, it
Yeah,
was a 30.
whatever it was. He had 2 field goals. Made them both. Greg Joseph hits his field goal, and they both hit their extra points. Anders Carlson's extra point was a roller coaster ride, but it went in. So
No, that was a field goal. I know you're gonna bring. His other field goal was 33.
okay. No,
The 46 yarder
nope. It
looked.
was the extra point because it's the one I
That was
saw.
the
It
extra point.
was the one I saw. Yeah, the extra point was like woo, and they came back in.
No, that was the field goal
I,
because it was a long one. It looked like he was missing because it was curving right, but then
they came in. Maybe
yeah,
I thought it was extra point, but regardless, they all made them. So no closer to a decision on that. Like I think if one has a bad game in this game, it gets obviously closer. But regardless, we'll have to wait till next week. I think I liked how they did it. They give him equal opportunities. Like obviously, Honors only gets one more kick than Greg Joseph does. I think it's because of the offense and where they were. Like it's not whatever they
yeah.
wanted to do kind of thing. But
Though they did go back to Carlson after Joseph
they
made
did.
his.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Anders got the first extra point and the first field goal, and then Joseph got the second extra point and the second field goal, and then Anders got the last field goal. So whether they are gonna do every other or how they'll do that, but at least they made them. At least they made them.
at least they made him. Also, a special shout out to Daniel Whelan. got a punt in the 20.
Yep.
I believe the hang time was like 5 seconds.
Two kicks, 91 yards. It's pretty.
51 long. He's
He's just vibing, dude. He's got no competition. He's just putting balls.
he's like, what's all the hubbub
What's all
about
the
the
hubbub?
kickers?
What's the deal?
Yeah. I can boom it at Clark Hinkle Field.
What did you think of the new kickoff?
You know what's I mean, outside of them just returning it, I don't think it really had I mean, I liked it.
I'll say I think I like it.
Yeah.
Like I think it gives more incentive for kicks to actually be returned, and
Yes.
it puts more purpose into the actual play than what used to have, right? If before this rule change, you wanted a kicker that could just punt it through the back of the end zone, bring it out to the 25.
Yeah.
But now if it's a touchback, it goes out to the 30, and like that's 10
You gotta
more
play the game.
yards. Right. Like so it requires a little bit more like strategy. Like you have to be actually able to drop it in that zone. Otherwise you're gonna pay for it. And giving I think it was Kevin Harlan made a great point to where if you're starting at the 30 and now in today's NFL to get to field goal range, you really only need like 30 yards.
Yep.
And if that's the case, like that's going to be good for I think a lot of offenses. But I think who knows if it'll increase scoring or not. But I think that's going to be a game you have to play as a coach in the NFL, like and as a team is like okay, we can't punt it through the back of the end zone. That's very bad if it's getting towards the late stages of a game, and you get them to start it at like the 30 instead of the 20. Because if you can like drop it at like the 10, 15 yard line, hopefully you can get a tackle before the 30, then it's a win. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think I didn't see a whole lot of the actual returns on the Packers side of it. I did see like some from the weekend in general, just about returns in general. But we'll see how this affects Keyshawn Nixon's role as a kick returner too, and how his
Um,
effectiveness is adjusted.
buy the ticket, take the ride. You know,
Yeah, I'm not sure what the hell that means, but I'll agree with you.
just kick off. Um, yeah, I don't think from a Packers perspective, I don't think there was any. The only kick return on the box score is Emmanuel Wilson's with one kickoff return for 20 yards.
Yep.
But yeah,
So, all right, folks, that does it for this episode of Talk of the Tundra. We'll be back in your podcast feeds this week. Talk about all things Packers training camp as it continues on, and a little bit of a preview of the. I keep wanting to say it's the Ravens, but it's not. It's the Broncos as they play the Broncos this coming Sunday. Like I said earlier in the pod, be sure to subscribe to the GSPN premium Substack page at gspn.info. $8 a month to get a lot more content from us, including weekly premium pods, GSPN After Dark. So go check that out. Go check out all of the feeds about the Bucks on the Bucks feed. Obviously, uh, the Olympics just wrapped up today, but earlier this week, Adam and Ty talked about Giannis winning an Olympic or Giannis getting a win in the Olympics, but falling to Germany in the knockout round. Adam and Andrew talked about the Brewers as they took 2 or 3 from the Reds today. I saw William Contreras got tossed in the bottom of the eighth. Not really sure what for, but I saw the replay and then had to walk away. Um, so go check out Cruising for a Bruising as they keep rolling on as the Brewers keep winning as get their first series win and I think a couple. Yeah, they lost a series to the. Oh no, they had lost to the
they beat the
Marlins,
Braves. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But they were on a little skid
yeah.
um, where they went. They lost 2 of 3 of the Marlins, I think, 2 to 3 to the Braves, and I think 2 of 3 to the Nationals. But then bounced back with a sweep of the Braves and 2 or 3 from the Reds now. So they're back to their winning ways. And then make time for this Adam and Andrews Drunk Drawer Pop Culture Movie Pod. Go check that out as well. So, all right, folks. Like I said, we'll be back in your podcast feeds very soon. Uh, thank you for listening, and Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.